Hey, good afternoon. 406 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, former member of the Puerto Rican Financial Oversight Board, Justin Peterson, is here. And he'll talk to us about the actual record between President Trump and Puerto Rico. He's got a lot to tell us. That's at 4:30. And 5 o'clock, the man who was arrested for a meme, Douglas Mackey, joins us, reacting to Jimmy Kimmel's decision to lie to the public yesterday. In a joke. It's a joke, right? But, you know, Douglas Mackey's thing was a joke, too, about Hillary Clinton. Mackey went to jail. Jimmy Kimmel lies to the public about, hey, if you're a Trump supporter, you can vote after Election Day, he claims. So when is he going to jail? We'll explore. You'll talk to us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Joe Biden really stepped in it this week, not for his own campaign. He doesn't have one of those anymore. For Kamala Harris.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware, they're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The only garbage I see floating out there, his supporters, says Joe Biden, talking about Donald Trump. And, of course, that stole all of the headlines from Kamala Harris's stupid and divisive rally that she was holding just outside the White House at the very same time. So how did President Trump respond this week? Well, we all got to see the images yesterday as President Trump went to Wisconsin and climbed into a garbage truck.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
How do you like my garbage truck? President Trump wearing an orange safety vest, climbing up into the passenger seat of a garbage truck. It's got campaign signage on the side of it. That was a beautiful truck, by the way. It looked really nice. And he rolled the window down, and he actually did a whole press conference from the window of the garbage truck, which had me chuckling. He's also been saying at the rallies this week, hey, you know, Trump supporters, don't listen to Joe.
Kamala and Joe call all of us, and them, even them, garbage. I call you the heart and soul of America. You are the heart and soul. You built our country. You know, you built our country. You built it. Far more than they built it, I can tell you that. You built it. And by the way, I want to thank all of our incredible sanitation workers all across America. Because they work hard. They really do work hard.
This, I love. The left is undergoing a bit of cope right now. We call it copium. They're out there claiming, oh, this looks so silly. He looks ridiculous. This is his Dukakis moment. No. I know, I hate to break it to you. This is yet again another out-of-control success in terms of just basic on-the-ground politics. He did it with the McDonald's stop where he, you know, really drove home the point that Kamala never worked there and looked very natural doing it. And then, of course, he did well with this garbage truck thing, too. Nobody thinks that he's actually working in a garbage truck. I saw some people joking about it. The media, I don't even think they bothered doing a real fact check yesterday. On the McDonald's front, they did. They're like, Trump didn't actually work at McDonald's. And then we all mocked them to death, which was funny. But, of course, Trump didn't actually work as a sanitation worker. But he did climb up into a garbage truck yesterday. I also saw the left. They're literally looking for anything. They say, oh, look at him. He had trouble getting up into the garbage truck. Yeah. He did. He even talked about it at the rally. He said it was a difficult step up for him at his age of 78. He was like, oh, please don't fall. He just wanted to get in, do it the right way. He did. He succeeded. He explained he ended up wearing the safety vest, the orange safety vest, to his rally, which was a good visual. And here he is explaining it.
So this outfit, you know, is when he called us all garbage. How stupid. What a stupid word. That blows deplorable away, don't you think? Of course, I thought irredeemable when she said deplorable or irredeemable. I thought irredeemable was actually worse, but...
He's got a good memory. That during that clip, she did say both deplorable and irredeemable.
Deplorable seemed to catch up, but this garbage stuff blows it away. So I'm in this beautiful plane. I'm enjoying myself. Have a wonderful suit on. And one of my people came in and said, "Sir, you know, the word garbage is the hottest thing right now out there. The hottest thing out there. Sir, would you like to drive a garbage truck?" Now, we're about, 30 minutes from landing. We had to do this pretty quick. I said, "It's sort of cool, though, isn't it? Because, And I said, I think that's okay, but, I don't feel comfortable wearing a suit." And they pulled up this garbage truck. I don't know how the hell they did it so fast. I have very capable people.
Pretty funny. He had a good time. He said the vest made him look really thin, so he was happy about that.
And they said, "It would be unbelievable if you could wear it on stage." I said... And I said, "No way. I got 25,000 people standing outside. I got all these people here. There's no way I'm wearing it on stage." They said, "Oh, okay, sir." I said, "Get me my jacket." But if you did, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, and they got me. I said, "I want to wear it on stage."
I hadn't heard that audio. That's the funniest part. That's really funny. That's pretty good. He's got what I think Joe Rogan said it. And speaking of Joe Rogan, he just talked to JD Vance today, so I've got audio of that coming up too. You don't want to miss that. But Rogan said it. He's got great comedic timing. It's just, and it's true. You can tell, and you can tell this. It's not just Trump, but people who have excellent comedic timing. They know how to present information at the right moment in the right way to get you laughing. Trump's good at that. And as I'm playing this, I just want you to remember just one thing. I mentioned from time to time, I've got a bunch of family members who are conservative. I have a huge extended family. We're all chatting with each other all the time. And one of the messages that came across the chain this morning was about this garbage truck thing. And it was one of my uncles, actually, and he recommended, he said, "Hey, guys, remember, savor all of this. What you're experiencing right now is not going to happen again. Regardless of the result of the election next week, by the way, this is just the good advice. I just want you to remember these final days, savor the campaign. If there's a part of you, at any part of you at all, that kind of enjoys this, like, you're living in it now. I mean, I've had a lot of friends, you go back to 2016, they're like, "Man, I wish we could relive all of that. That was the wildest ride. The wildest ride." And the way President Trump succeeded in that campaign, it was fun to watch. It was hilarious at times. And you don't realize how good you had it until it's gone. And so right now you're kind of seeing a lot of that again, and savor it. That's all. That's the advice. Savor it. President Trump with a serious message last night about, look, you can't lead this country if you hate your fellow countrymen.
And I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. This week, Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. No way. No way. And they actually mean it, even though, without question, my supporters are far higher quality than Crooked Joe or Lion Kamala. Higher quality.
Has he said Lion Kamala before? Is that the first debut of that? Might be.
My response to Joe and Kamala is very simple. You can't lead America if you don't love Americans. That's true. You can't be president if you hate the American people, which I believe they do.
Yeah, this is all blowing up in their face. It's amazing. Now, the media is undergoing a copium struggle session right now. Let's see. So CBS's Norah O'Donnell, who has blown a particularly obvious gasket in recent weeks. You can see her newscast has apparently become so belligerently left-wing that it's like, well, she may as well join the campaign, the Kamala's campaign. Here's CBS Norah O'Donnell last night saying that Trump's garbage truck move was a stunt and Joe Biden wasn't really trying to be mean.
He landed in Green Bay just a short time ago and then pulled this campaign stunt, speaking to reporters from a garbage truck. Proof that he and his supporters are giving no grace to a gaffe by President Biden, where he, in his explanation, inadvertently called Trump supporters garbage. This, of course, was in response to that racist joke about floating garbage told at a Trump rally just last weekend. Vice President Harris is distancing herself from the negativity and trying to drive home her unifying message that if elected, she will represent all Americans.
Just awful, just so completely awful. That presentation of, if you can even call it that, the news, preposterous newscast, which she says, they're not even giving Biden any grace. Like, how about a little grace for the guy who just called Trump supporters garbage, American citizens garbage? On NBC, Kelly O'Donnell said, it's a stutter.
What they are trying to say is that the president was referring to the demonization being garbage from one prominent supporter, the comedian who appeared at the Madison Square Garden event for Donald Trump.
If you're explaining, you're losing.
If you look at about a minute's worth of the remarks from President Biden when he was speaking to Latino groups last night, that context appears more clear. Also, it's important to know that the president always has that battle against stuttering, and that seemed to be apparent in this as well.
And then Joe Scarborough this morning on Morning Joe, he was freaking out. Somebody described this as wielding an Elmo voice this morning. He was freaking out about Trump's garbage truck press conference.
Ended up calling the press that were there in a hostile environment scum. So there you go. The hypocrisy, Mika, over a misstatement.
Yes, you're not allowed to insult the ruling class. That's not allowed.
Joe Biden, which he quickly corrected, is so laughable because this guy does this every day. And then you turn on Fox News and go, oh, how could anybody do this? I've never seen this before from the press. Despite the fact one of the people saying that yesterday on Fox News stood by while Donald Trump watched violence erupt on January the 6th.
Hey, speaking of violence, do you remember when on July 13th, President Trump was shot in the head, and then 2 days later, MSNBC wouldn't put Morning Joe on the air for fear that they would justify it? Like, MSNBC refused to let Joe and Mika go on the air the Monday after the assassination attempt because they were worried about what they would say. Not too worried, apparently. They let them back the next day, and they've been wild ever since. Frank Luntz did break through on CNN, the pollster, and said this thing that Biden said about Americans being garbage, this is bad news for Kamala.
But I wonder if you think that those comments are going to move voters.
It's going to be huge because this is not some comedian saying something stupid and offensive at a rally where he should have been basically disinvited. This is the president of the United States endorsing his vice president saying something, and I know that there's different interpretations about what he said. It's still inappropriate. He still shouldn't be doing it. And I've watched Trump already seize this. The basket of deplorables was significant, was meaningful in 2016. In 2024, I can promise you that this is going to drive Trump turnout. He's doing it already. I can see, I'm sure there's going to be ads on as soon as tonight about this. This may be a turning point for those final 3%, and that's all it is, who still need to be persuaded.
Could have an impact. It could have an impact. Isn't it amazing how this week has gone? The left thought that they had a toehold on Trump earlier this week. They're like, oh, there was a comedian who said something naughty at one of his rallies. Let's seize on that. And now it's all blowing up in their face. Every last inch of it is blowing up in their face. All right, let's go to the phone. I've got Steve calling in from North Bethesda on line 2. Hello, Steve. You're on the Vince Callahan Show.
Hi, Vince. Great listening to you. Apropos of what you were saying about Trump, really handling the whole garbage thing really artfully. last night in a speech, he was talking about passing laws to protect people from illegal immigrants, and he made a comment about women, and he said, "And we're going to protect them even if they don't want us to." And then Kamala Harris today has come out with saying, he was not giving women credit for agency, all that. And your WMAO led with that as a story at 3 p.m. and at 4 p.m. also. So, this seems like a race to the end to see who makes the dumbest statement, last or whatever.
Yeah, then Kamala's winning. Yeah, because once again, this is like the same kind of absurd garbage they always do. They totally, if Kamala thought she had a good weapon here, based on what you're talking about, and the phrase was whether they like it or not, Trump saying that he's going to protect women whether they like it or not. That's like me saying I'm going to hand you $100 whether you like it or not. It's obvious that everyone wants protection. It's obvious that we need to do that. And Kamala is lying about it. She's not even mentioning crime. Trump's going to do stuff to women, quote, whether they like it or not. It's absurd. In fact, I'll play that audio coming up, Steve. It's an excellent point. I want to talk about that and so much more all ahead. I've got Justin Peterson coming up next. We'll talk about Puerto Rico. Stay with us. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 4:35 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, 5 o'clock, Douglas Mackey is here, a political prisoner of the Biden administration, thrown in jail for making a meme about Hillary Clinton and Election Day, like years ago now. And he just witnessed Jimmy Kimmel tell a very similar joke yesterday, and he's not going to jail. What's up with that? We'll talk to Douglas Mackey. And you can chat with us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Garbage Gate. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris have all sorts of incoming now after they insulted the American people, saying that Trump supporters are, quote, garbage. But the left is still desperately trying to say that it's Donald Trump who's insulting because a comedian that most people had never heard of spoke at one of Trump's rallies, cracked a joke about Puerto Rico, and the left has been trying to make it a thing ever since. In fact, on MSNBC, in just the last 24 hours, there was a fellow called Victor Martinez, a Pennsylvania radio host, and here's what he had to say.
Listen, because of what was said, I mean, he called us trash. He said Puerto Rico was garbage. If there's two things you don't mess with a Puerto Rican, it's the island and the flag. I mean, that's where we draw the line. And yes, we were very upset at Donald Trump when Maria happened, and the fact that he threw paper towels at us, and the fact that he called us poor and dirty. Well, you know what? Time heals all wounds, right? We let it go. We forgot, even though we didn't forgive, and we kind of put it aside. Well, guess what? What happened on Sunday brought all those feelings right back. It reminded us, oh, that's right. That's the guy who didn't send money, who withheld funds. That's the guy who called us dirty and poor and threw paper towels. It's like a wound, right? He was healing. It was getting better. And now that wound has been open and he's bleeding again.
Uh-huh. Does that bear any resemblance to reality? Well, let's ask one of the people who's been in charge of taking care of Puerto Rico. That's Justin Peterson, who joins us now. He's a former member of Puerto Rico's Financial Oversight Board, and he's got a lot of thoughts on this subject. Justin, good to have you back with us, sir.
Yes, thanks for having me on, Vince. I have to say, listening to that clip, it bears no resemblance to reality, what happened, and I think this is a perfect example of what the Harris campaign and the left do, is they tell lies and they misrepresent President Trump's record. As you said, I was appointed by President Trump to serve as a member of the Oversight Board in Puerto Rico. I served a 3-year term. Prior to that, I spent more than a decade on the island working in business, not living there, but visiting there frequently, doing business there. I have a lot of friends in Puerto Rico, including, by the way, politicians from both parties that are good friends. And I can attest for your listeners, no president has done more for Puerto Rico than President Donald Trump. And this gentleman the clip you just played, talked about Hurricane Maria. Hurricane Maria devastated the island in 2017. I think a lot of us may remember that. But when it happened, President Trump acted very quickly, and he acted decisively, immediately deploying, as I describe in an article I wrote for the Daily Caller, immediately deploying thousands of federal workers to help with relief efforts. And he authorized billions for the rebuilding and reconstruction of key infrastructure. And in my article, I describe that in detail, but a couple of examples of that, he authorized $9.6 billion, almost $10 billion to rebuild Puerto Rico's grid, which has been a disaster. It's a model of inefficiency. It's a relic of the New Deal, as is much of Puerto Rico's organization and infrastructure, and also $2 billion for schools. But he's not given the credit he deserves. People constantly distort his record, and that's why I felt compelled to write the article. Yeah.
Well, on President Trump and his interaction with Puerto Rico, first of all, why was there the creation of this oversight board that you served on in the first place? What issue was it designed to address?
Sure. That's a great question. So in 2016, Puerto Rico had amassed $70 billion in debt. That's a lot of money, a lot of debt. And it was the Commonwealth itself. It was PREPA, the power utility. It was PRASA, the Water and Sewer Authority, the GDB, General Development Bank. And again, these organizations of Puerto Rico were literally set up during the New Deal by a guy named Rex Tugwell, who worked for FDR. It was an experiment in socialism, and it totally failed. And so, years later, 2016, $70 billion in debt, Congress passed a law which authorized the creation of a board. It was to do two things: to restructure the debt, get Puerto Rico out of bankruptcy, allow it to declare bankruptcy, get it out, and to impose some financial discipline, which was desperately needed. And so that's why the board was created. And I would say that until President Trump shook the board up, not much had been done. During the 3 years of my term, myself and a few others, we were able to restructure some of the debt. But when he left office, President Biden and Harris, their administration, they have stopped. Let me go back to that $9.6 billion for the grid. Most of that money sits unspent. The Biden-Harris administration has provided almost no accountability or oversight or put any pressure on the Oversight Board of the Commonwealth to comply with procurement policies that are designed to prevent corruption, that are designed to ensure that there are no big contracts. And so the money sits unspent. Puerto Rico is still plagued with rolling blackouts. Then enter Kamala Harris. She rolled out her plan for Puerto Rico this week. She says it's a green energy plan. I say it's a garbage plan. It's a continuation of the Green New Deal policies of this administration, where they've squandered billions of dollars on green subsidies and have nothing to show for it. I don't know what the actual number is of EV stations that have been built, the charging stations, but for the dollars we spent, not much. That's what she wants to do in Puerto Rico. And there's also two problems that need to be fixed in Puerto Rico that her plan doesn't address. First, they've got to exit bankruptcy. As I said, there was some progress on that when myself and a few other President Trump's appointees were on the board. But a lot of the instrumentalities of Puerto Rico still need to be restructured. Most importantly, PREPA, the power utility. And that requires strong leadership from Washington. They haven't had it. Getting these entities out of bankruptcy, both the Commonwealth and these government organizations, it's going to speed capital investment, speed private investment, capital formation on the island. That's what we need to help Puerto Rico grow. That's one problem. The second problem is that Puerto Rico needs a business-sustaining energy infrastructure. Nobody wants to go there because their power is unreliable. And again, it's this New Deal bunker fuel-driven grid that is falling apart. That has not been rebuilt. Kamala Harris has a plan to rebuild that, and that is with Chinese-made solar panels that, in my view, would end up in the bottom of the Caribbean when the next hurricane hits. That's not the way to rebuild Puerto Rico. We need to use the money that the president has authorized, President Trump authorized, provide the necessary oversight, and build a baseload power system that's made of reliable, affordable power, like American natural gas.
Yeah.
So Kamala Harris's plan is not going to fix Puerto Rico. It's going to make it worse. It's a garbage plan.
Let me on the issue of waste disposal, legitimate waste disposal. There have been articles, lots of articles actually through the years, about how Puerto Rico actually has a waste problem, that they have a trash crisis in the sense that they actually can't get rid of all of the garbage. There's a lot, like any community, they generate a lot of trash, but then you got to have a place to put it. It's an island. There's not a place to put it. And so a lot of it ends up all over the island. What, in your time in Puerto Rico and in your time on the Oversight Board, how serious has that problem been?
Look, I think it's a problem, and landfills, trash disposal is a problem. A lot of the problem then stems from endemic corruption throughout the government. That's one of the things that the Oversight Board should be focused on.
Yeah.
Again, when Donald Trump was president, the board was made to be focused on it. I don't know what they're doing now.
Amazing. So in the final summary, you think the press is getting all of this wrong, Justin Peterson, and that if any president has been good for Puerto Rico, it's been Donald Trump.
Absolutely. You know what? We know what Donald Trump's record as president was.
Yeah.
He was president for 4 years. We know what he did. The Harris campaign and the left are trying to lie about that, distort what he will do, scare people by saying what he will do. We know what he did. And as it relates to Puerto Rico, I had a front row seat to what he did. And it wasn't just me that thought he was the best president Puerto Rico had ever had. But again, elected officials from both parties, friends of mine, some of them Democrats, would say to me, "Oh, I can't say this, I'm a Democrat, but President Trump, he was the best thing for us ever." So this whole mythology around paper towels and things Trump supposedly said behind closed doors, I don't buy any of it because I saw the action. And when they needed help, he stepped up.
That's cool. All right. Hey, thank you very much. Justin Peterson, who is the former member of the Puerto Rico's Financial Oversight Board. Sir, good to talk to you. Thank you for bringing some truth to this conversation.
Thank you. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Of course. That's Justin Peterson. Grateful for his call today. Let's see here. We got a lot of calls coming in, so let's take some. We've got Sam in Alexandria, line 3. Hello, Sam. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, brother. Thank you so much for taking my call because I have a pretty close interest in this particular subject. I don't know if Corey passed along our conversation about it. My wife is of Puerto Rican descent. She was born and raised in Brooklyn. Her parents were from Puerto Rico. And the other night, the day after the quote-unquote joke was made, which was nothing that guy said was funny, so he should title his name as a comedian. But she came in from work, and she says, "What the F is this thing that this guy said about Puerto Rico, and what is Trump doing about this?" She says, "My social media is getting blown up by all my friends."
Yeah.
And they're saying, why isn't Trump stepping up and calling this guy what he is and saying, in the strongest Trump or political terms, however you want to say it, that he's vile, he's disgusting, and he's just hearing about this quote unquote joke. It's not funny, and it defames a great people. That nips it in the bud right there. But he hasn't done it, Vince, and it's like, oh my gosh! And I think that's a lot of our frustrations is on things like that. Like your previous caller, he said, all the great things that Trump does.
Yeah.
People of Puerto Rico, they realize that some of the their politicians are corrupt. They realize it's a real big inside game about who and how you get things done.
For sure,
they know that. But it's like somebody saying, I, as an Army guy, can talk trash about the Army all day long. But you let a sailor or a Marine walk in the room and start talking trash, I don't care how true it is or what it is, yeah, you got a problem. I think that's...
Well, by the way, on the intermilitary thing, I've noticed all the services talk trash about each other. That's a pretty standard thing, actually. But On what you're talking about, so I've got a bunch of thoughts on it, and I've already vocalized some of them on the air, but I will say, one, that I think the hysteria around this was overwrought by design. The left was trying to make a mountain out of a molehill because Kamala doesn't have a real campaign or anything, no positive vision for the country. So they were looking for something to leap on, and Tony Hinchcliffe gave them something to leap on. So that's one. Two, this strikes me as much ado about basically nothing, honestly. I think the whole thing is preposterous because the guy's an insult comic. Literally, if you listen to him in any other format, you're like, oh, whatever. He's just telling goofy jokes about black people, about Puerto Ricans, about literally every possible group you can imagine this guy has told jokes about. And I'm with you. My reaction to Tony Hinchcliffe is I've never been that amused by him. So, he's made it, I guess, but he's not my cup of tea. That's for sure. And then the other piece here is Trump doesn't need to play their game, Sam. Trump doesn't need to even stoop to playing their game because you understand how this works. What ends up happening, so if Trump followed your advice on this subject, and you're a smart guy, so I mean, you've got good advice on all sorts of things. But if Trump followed your advice on this subject, you realize what the left would do with this? The left would use it as positive affirmation of how awful Trump's campaign is, and then use it as a basis to say Trump's aware of how awful he is. And that would be the whole game. That'd be the whole ball game. And Trump doesn't play that. Trump's like, whatever, I'm campaigning and I'm trying to beat her. And meanwhile, Biden comes out and he's like, you know who's garbage? Trump supporters. And at that point, it's like, really? So Trump's going to spend a bunch of time trying to relitigate the Tony Hinchcliffe joke, a warm-up act at one of his rallies when he could be talking about, you know what? I'm the guy who actually cares about the country. I'm the guy who cares about Americans. I'm not Biden and Kamala Harris, who very casually and easily say that American citizens are both garbage and Nazis and fascists. I'm not playing that game. And I'm going to stand with you. So I think at this point, I honestly think President Trump has handled this exactly the way he should.
Okay, we'll disagree on that one, brother. I disagree on. I agree with 99% of what you put out. This one, I'll have to disagree. That I would have loved as soon as it came out, and he gets up and says, because they were selling, his news conference the next day as being talking about this and saying, this is a bunch of crap. I don't put up with that. And this guy will never work nor be around me again because I will not accept that from anybody that works for me. And you can imagine that kind of forceful language against that kind of speech, that kind of delivery. I think that would have gone a long way, but you and I disagree.
That's all right. And that's the cool thing is we can. Thank you very much, Sam. I appreciate the call. All right, the Trump campaign, or President Trump's individually maybe, has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against CBS News. You see this? Breaking. For deceptively doctoring Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview. In a letter to CBS, Trump's counsel said the network, quote, intentionally misled the public by broadcasting a skillfully edited interview transcript aimed at causing confusion among the electorate regarding Vice President Kamala Harris's abilities, intelligence, and appeal. So the lawsuit has arrived for 60 Minutes. It is egregious. And you know what's amazing? Just release the transcript. And I get it. Look, you don't have to release every transcript of every interview you ever do. That's tedious and nobody's going to read them. But when it comes to a major presidential candidate, sort of have a public obligation to do that. People want it, CBS. You've got it. Why are you withholding it? What are you hiding in the edits? What hit the cutting room floor? And why can't we see it? Coming up, Douglas Mackey will join us moments from now. He was arrested, imprisoned by the left for making a meme about Hillary Clinton. And he just watched Jimmy Kimmel tell a very similar joke. No threats of arrest for that guy for some reason. Stay with us here on The Vince Coglianese Show.